Welcome to That's What She Said, where we'll spill the tea on women empowerment in the Great Lakes Bay region with your host, Christiana Malacara.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of That's What She Said with me, Christiana Malacara. And we, yes, like every week, we are spilling the tea all over the place about women empowerment across the Great Lakes Bay region and beyond. So I add the beyond so dramatically because we have a podcast format, and those apps are just beyond the Great Lakes Bay region, right? So we're getting women, just people in general, tuning in from all over and just want to be engaged and want to learn more and invest in themselves. So the ways that you can listen, which I appreciate very much for those listeners who have started from day one with us, or for those of you who are just tuning in, thank you for coming on board. So you can listen to us on Thursdays on social media. So that would be on Facebook, on YouTube, the WSGW Facebook page, or the That's What She Said Facebook page. If you are listening to us on the radio waves, it is either a Saturday morning at 8 a.m. or Sunday evening at 6. That is on the radio waves at 100.5 or 790 or at WSGW.com. And then, as always, in that podcast format, which is the way that I love to kind of just enjoy That's What She Said. Yes, I listen to my own show. I know I have to be a fan of myself, right? Don't we all? So that will be on podcast format, and that is on Spotify, Audible, and then Apple Podcast as well. So a couple things that I have to say, which between That's What She Said Day to the next That's What She Said Day, I have begun I don't want to say journaling, but like writing down random thoughts. It kind of looks like a little bit of a crazy person is just scribbling things, but I swear they are thought out processes. And one thing that I had wrote down in the past few days was, and I'm going to read it. It says, should I explain myself or should I continue being misunderstood? And it was something that I was like, that conservation of energy, right? Like, do I need to really explain myself to this person? It's going to take energy. It's going to take emotion. Or can I be okay with them misunderstanding why I did X, Y, Z? Because conserving my energy is important for me to pass along that energy to my family, for my coworkers, for what job and what task is at hand, and for myself, to be honest. So are we in this weird spot of, do I give this up? Do I give up my energy to explain why I did what I did, or why I didn't do what I didn't do to someone to make them feel better? Or do I just kind of just set it aside and move through my day and say, you know what? Hey, you didn't get it. I did. And I did this for me, and I'm going to move on. So it was just this huge piece of puzzle that I was dealing with. And I thought to myself, well, what I ended up doing was I moved on. So, and we can get into this later, but Christiana Malacara does enjoy conserving her energy. The way I think of energy is a currency, right? And so we want to drop that currency in the buckets that fill us back up. So when you move through the rest of your week, I would like you to think about that. Am I navigating my energy and my currency and where it needs to go, to who it needs to go to? And am I on that list myself? Am I on the list of depositing into? So we are going to move forward with the episode. That was enough of that. But as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach us on Facebook or Instagram, or my email address, christiana.malacara@alphamediausa.com. I know all those letters, but you got it, girl. So we have a guest with us who is one of my favorite ladies. She truly is just amazing. She gets it done, and she does it with a smile, sometimes tears, but a smile. I have Sara Parker with us today. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm so glad you're here to be able to just share with us. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I feel like we started talking about this as soon as I started in my position, and I'm super happy we're finally able to make it happen.
Yes. Yeah. The way that we met is we'll go into that. But I would like you to introduce yourself and tell us how the community might know you.
Well, my name is Sara Parker, and I am a director of workforce development at the Bay Area Chamber of Commerce and with the Bay City Talent Retention and Attraction Initiative. But you also probably know me from bebopping around Bay City. I'm born and raised in Bay City, so spent my whole life there, extremely passionate about my community. I think I've probably been networking for 17 years. So you've probably met me at one time or another. But really in my role as Director of Workforce Development with the Chamber of Commerce, I'm able to really get even more integrated in the community in a more impactful and meaningful way.
Okay, that title has a whole lot of words. What does it mean though? What do you do?
So honestly, my role started from after COVID. There was an uptick of interest in wanting to fuel small businesses. And how do we, as we know, Bay County has a very aging population. So how do we negate that? My role started with that. So Bay City is a talent attraction and retention initiative. We have a job board. We do placemaking events. I work with employers and job seekers. So with Director of Workforce Development, it is a mouthful. Basically, what that means is I work with employers in our area to help support them with their HR needs, whether that's job descriptions, helping to fill roles that they have, or really working on overcoming those employment barriers that we all know about, childcare, housing, and transportation. The other part of that is helping to build talent pipelines. There's all these different pockets of talent out there that we're not utilizing. For example, we have a large veteran community in Bay County. Not a lot of employers tap into that. So my role is to help share resources for employers to be able to tap into those different talent pools. On the other side, I work with job seekers. I help them with resume building, from anywhere from new resume creation right out of college or high school to I recently worked with somebody who was in their 50s and hadn't had a resume since 1996 because they just kept moving up in their company. And unfortunately, due to economy and whatnot, they had to be let go from their position. So they're re-entering the workforce. So I work with anyone from very beginning to re-entry. I also, one of my very favorite parts of what I do is I get to work with our local youth in career path readiness. So I get to work with our youth and we do mock job interviews, which are amazing. We do something called Bite of Reality, which helps teach high school students financial responsibility. So they get an app with a career and a salary. They have to go around to, I think, 12 different stations, housing, transportation, clothing, entertainment, and pick. And at a point in there, they run out of money, obviously, because that's the premise of it.
Yeah.
So then they have to go to career counseling. So one of the coolest things that's ever happened with the Bite of Reality is I was working housing and I had one student come pick the 2-bedroom, like, oh, I want the best of the best. Well, they came back and now I'm going to get the 1-bedroom. Oh no, now I need the studio. Oh no, now I need to move back in with my parents.
Oh,
so
wow.
Really showing them how far a dollar actually goes and the value of the money that they're making. Another story that was really a success story is a student came back to me and said, I have to go home and thank my parents because they spend a lot of money and I did not realize it was this expensive. So just very cool. I get to work with the youth. I'm also a part of work-based learning advisory committees. Work-based learning is a topic I'm extremely passionate about. I want to work to make sure our youth knows what they want to do, but even as important, what they don't want to do. So Director of Workforce Development sounds like a mouthful. I work with employers, job seekers, and our local high school students and higher education to help develop career paths for them.
So you said that you enjoy this part of the job the most, and you said work-based learning.
Yeah.
Why would you point out that specifically?
Because of the fact that a lot of us enter into a job field. I actually have a story, but we enter in a job field that we're like, I think I like doing this, but I have no idea. So offering that work-based learning can help save time and resources to where the story I'll tell is my very best friend. She went to school to become a dental hygienist, worked for like 6 months to a year and realized it was just not the career path for her. So she spent time and money to get that certification, to get that degree, to ultimately realize this is not for me. And so she had to kind of start over. So work-based learning is a great way to figure out what we want to do. But like I said, sometimes it's even more important to find out what we don't want to do. That is why the work-based learning to me is my favorite part, to get students with that hands-on experience. I don't have a bachelor's degree. I have 2 associate's degrees from Delta, but my work experience, because I was given the opportunity to work at the age of 15, I have over 15 years of experience working in various different sectors now. So because of that work-based learning, I didn't realize what was going on at the time. But reflecting back on my life, I realized that I was given an opportunity that not a lot of students have been given. And so I want to integrate that more. And we're doing a good job, but as always, we can always do better with that. But that's why that work-based learning component is like my favorite part of it, is let's give these students the opportunity to explore different career paths. And maybe you're interested in construction or healthcare, but you don't want to be a doctor or a nurse. There are so many different opportunities within the healthcare sector that you could get placed that you would be passionate about. And it wouldn't be, I know it sounds cliche, but if you love your job, you'll never work in a day in your life. So maybe getting someone integrated into that in different roles with that job, work-based learning experience is the way to help these students and these working adults to figure out where they want to go and give them a passion and a meaning in life.
So you said you started working at the age of 15. That's pretty young.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're exiting high school, what did you have in mind for you?
I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew that I was interested in like public relations and marketing. And that's really the career path that I took. There was a show on, and I cannot for the life of me remember what it was, but it was following around an executive at a public relations firm in New York. And I watched that religiously, and I thought, this is so cutthroat, but I don't think it has to be. So maybe I could get into that and change the industry. Mm-hmm. I took a different path, obviously, to be where I'm at today. But really, I wanted to be in advertising, public relations, or marketing. I knew I had an ability to talk with people, and I wasn't scared, I guess. I can't really say that because I do have my moments. I like to think I'm an introverted extrovert, where I'm like sometimes so uncomfortable in a situation, I'll just talk because like I don't know what else to do.
That's your comfort.
That's my comfort, is just talking. So honestly, I started out in a role that public relations, marketing, and and communications. That was my original plan. Well, to be honest, I actually started off wanting to be an orthodontist.
Oh, okay. So that is
and then I went to Career Center in Bay City, Bay Area Neck ISD Career Center, and went in the dental program and realized I really don't like this. So thankfully, we didn't take that career path because I don't think I'd be as happy as I am today. But yeah, I started out in a role that I didn't think, or I thought was going to be my forever, and it just really wasn't.
That's really interesting that you said something along the lines of, it's not figuring out what you want to do, but figuring out what you don't want to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And kind of taking that as a young person, that's kind of hard to soak in as a young person. I'm trying to think back when I was 15. Like, you couldn't tell me anything. I'm right, you're wrong. And how does that go? I'm trying to think of Matilda now. I'm having some flashbacks. I'm right, you're wrong. I'm big, you're small.
Yep,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You have that mentality in, high school and moving out into the real world. And like you said, a bite of reality, right?
Yeah.
That is so challenging for youth. But how is it? And have you come across someone who has said, thank you for taking me through this process. This is something I do not want to do. I want to steer clear of this path.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So I think, just to your point, it's kind of been beaten into us. By 12th grade, you have to figure out what you want to do. Like, you have to figure it out. At 12th grade, I was only concerned about like what friends I was going to hang out with after school. I wasn't thinking about adulthood. So I think it's just a shift in mindset that we have to stop hammering it into our students. You have to figure out what you want to do, when really it's more of like, let's explore. With my Rotary, I'm part of the Noon Rotary in Bay City, and the Noon Rotary and the Morning Rotary, we host every year. I help co-chair our Rotary Vocational Day. Last year, we placed about 170-ish students in 4-hour job shadows across different sectors. And then we come back and we have a lunch and we kind of discuss what the day was like. We had one student who was I'm going to be a pharmacy tech. That is what I'm doing 100%. I know what I want to do. They stood up and said, that was the most boring day of my life. I'm now going to look at different opportunities in the healthcare field, knowing that they want to stay in the healthcare field, but maybe pharmaceutical is not the career path to take. So that was one of the most impactful ones that stood up to me, where they stood up and said on a microphone, I had the most boring day of my life.
Wow.
And thankfully I did, because they're in 12th grade. So moving on with that career path, being able to kind of shift and change that is really important.
Yeah. And you know, every career has its boring days, right? But it's the day after day and the experience, the people that you get to, affect their lives in whichever way. If it's, pharmaceutical, or what did you say, orthodontist? It's at the end of the day when you go home, you have to feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
So I know you personally. So we're going to take a little step back. So we have this mutual friend, and he kind of set us up on like a networking blind date. And that's usually how I describe this person and how we have our encounters, right? So in the field that you're in, can you explain the importance of networking? Because our listeners, we have an entire spectrum of people who tune in, right? From youth to in their career to retired. I mean, just today I talked to a guy who is in retirement mode, literally golfing on a golf course, and said, I tune in. So, but the power of networking goes beyond that. And you are in the thick of it. So what is the power of networking?
Fortunately, I was taught at a very young age, and I was so young that I can't actually remember how I found the value of networking. But at that base of that word is working. It is a job to network. That is the reason that I'm in the place that I am. Like I said, I don't have a degree. The only way that I would be where I'm at right now is the power of networking. And I think about it all the way back to grade school when I was getting in trouble for talking too much. I never got on my report card, is quiet during class, never got that checked. So like, haha to my grade school teachers, because I made a whole career out of networking.
I feel like you should go visit them on vocational day.
Right, exactly.
What's up?
Look where I'm at now. No, but I think that networking is something that's, it's an actionable item that we can start right now. There's something that we talk about with skill building that you have to go through certifications in order to get that. Networking, I always tell this to my high school students. If there's one thing or two things that you can walk away from today, like at our mock job interviews or some of the interactions that I have with them. Number one, you can start building your personal brand today. That's one actionable item that you can start doing. Number two, networking. You think that your peers right now, you'll never see them again. I hate to break it to you, you will see them again, and you'll be working with them in a professional setting, and you're going to need some help and collaboration and partnerships from those people. So building your network now, networking to me is one of those skills that businesses don't realize that they need until it's too late, where they're like, okay, now how do we get integrated in the community? Networking is one of the ways that you can move up in your company or move up in another company just by talking to people and letting them know who you are. But one thing I will say about networking is it is a job. It is work. At the end of the day, sometimes I'm so thankful that my husband is an introvert, and when we get home, we just be quiet.
Just sit in silence.
Yes. He enjoys it and I enjoy it. We put like The Office on or something and just sit. And when I saw your podcast, that's what she said. I'm like,
Well, you've mentioned it a couple times, and we have a few more minutes here, so I want to touch on this shortly. You mentioned, I don't have a degree. Why do you keep mentioning that? Like, do we still see that is important?
Yes. Yep. So that is one of the trends that I'm noticing we're going to have to shift. A lot of the employers that I work with, I encourage them, okay, let's be honest. If it's a doctor, an engineer, you need the degree. I don't want someone who's not gone to medical school operating on me, obviously, right? Or building our infrastructure. So there's certain places that I say absolutely 100%. But I say it so much because in positions like director, executive director, higher level positions, that bachelor's degree is normally always required. I'm trying to transition our employers to think, is it actually required, or is that the way that we've always done it? Is there bachelor's degree preferred or relevant work experience that we could offer. And then that, again, opens up that talent pool, the applicant pool. So I mention it so much because it's, to me, important to know that I'm at a high level position where I work. I got here without a degree. I'm not saying I got here without experience or I did go to college. Life happened. I wasn't able to finish. Just to let people know that there's other options out there. And this is a whole conversation we could have, but there's a divisiveness when it comes to, do I go to college or do I go to vocational? It shouldn't be an or conversation. It should be an and conversation. So let's say you want to go into a skilled trade. Is there an option for a certification in leadership? So instead of saying like you either go to college or you don't, maybe there's an and conversation that we can have. That's one of my big things that I want to push is 4-year degrees are right for a lot of people, but there's some people and then they feel less than that they don't have a degree. So I think what I do is I say I don't have it because it's like a qualifier for me to kind of like, I don't have it, but I was able to accomplish this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. I see that. I see that. So for our listeners who are, tuning in and saying, hey, Sara got here, doing this and not doing these things. Where can they learn more online?
So honestly, I would just encourage them to reach out to the chamber first and foremost, because there's so many resources out there. That's actually one of the things I'm working on right now is putting together a resource guide. So if you're looking for upskilling, I can have a link to send over to you.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
And that is our first half of That's What She Said with Sara Parker. When we come back, we're going to dive a little deeper into who is Sara and what is she doing for herself? What's next for Sara Parker? So, tune in. I will be waiting.
That's What She Said with Christiana Malacara is back. Now let's spill the tea.
Hi, everyone, and we are back to the second half of That's What She Said with me, Christiana Malacara. I have a absolutely wonderful person here with me who we just had a discussion about success, and what does that look like, and how is that being implemented in the Great Lakes Bay region when it comes to employment and the workforce here, which is a huge topic within itself. So Sara, thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
And representing women in this industry, because this is tough.
Yeah.
This is tough to have these types of conversations. Can you remind us where you work and what you do?
Yeah, Sara Parker, Director of Workforce Development with the Bay Area Chamber of Commerce and the Hay Bay City Talent Attraction and Retention Initiative.
So in our last half, you had said personal brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of, when I hear those words, like I get excited. I'm like, ooh, well, who are you? Right.
Yeah.
But women have this issue, and I'm going to say it, it's an issue, an identity issue of saying, well, who am I? And I am so malleable. I can be multifaceted. I am dynamic. And these are all good things to be this way. But when women are working on their branding, when they're putting themselves out there to the workforce, what are some tips that you would tell her?
Honestly, the first tip I would say, and I'm still learning this at this point in life, and I'm trying to instill this on my daughter. You have important ideas and things to say, speak up. Honestly, a lot of times what happens is, I won't say this in this meeting, but I'll send it in an email later. No, speak up in that meeting, because what you have to say, like you mentioned, is dynamic. It's impactful. So if you're entering the workforce as a woman, we kind of already have a difficult road ahead of us. I'm not going to say that other people don't have a difficult road, but to be taken seriously as a woman in multiple different industries. I used to work in construction. So to be able to walk on a job site and have people like look at me as in I was business development and construction. To have people look at me, a heavily male dominated field, look at me and think she doesn't know what she's talking about. So I kind of feel and we as women have to try harder. And I really don't think it should be like that. But what I would say to a woman entering employment or the workforce is speak up. Be who you are and speak your mind. And don't be afraid to give ideas and interject when you feel not comfortable or you don't think that that idea is the best way to do it. Just find the courage to speak up, especially if you're in a very heavily male-dominated industry. I know it's easier said than done, but I lived it and I did it and was able to, at the end of my career within the construction field, was able to be taken seriously and as an expert in the restoration industry. I just put in the extra work to study and make sure I knew what I was talking about.
Oh, okay. Knowing what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay. So speak up, know what you're talking about, be confident, and just kind of keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Essentially keep moving forward. So when you were on a construction site and there's, guy here, guy there, and you're the only girl, and I'm picturing you just like a tiny little yellow helmet just walking through. And how is it? How did that feel?
Honestly, so it felt very intimidating. I grew up in a different way, though. I grew up swinging a hammer with my dad and my grandpa. I grew up around a lot of men. So I'm comfortable walking in, and also that introvert extrovert thing where if I'm uncomfortable in a situation, I'm just going to dive right in and talk. So being on a construction site, walking up, I just went and started asking questions. I found, like, let's say the project manager, the project foreman. I went and started asking questions and being able to answer back and have a conversation. I think the best way to interject into something like that is to ask a question, an intelligent, a well-researched question. So before you go into an instant like that, what I would do is I would do research on the project to make sure I kind of knew what I was talking about. Like, I was in insurance restoration, so a fire, flood, vandalism on a home or a business, we would go in and repair that.
So it takes homework.
Yeah, it does. It takes homework. Yeah, absolutely.
So do you think women have to do more homework than men?
Right now, yes, I do. I'm hoping that changes, but I'm not seeing that in the immediate future. I'm still kind of seeing that we do have to do a little bit more homework. And it's horrible to say, but we do have to try harder. And I'm saying, like, as a small, petite, blonde, in male-dominated industry, I feel we have to work even harder. So it is something that I do think, and it shouldn't be that way, but I do think we have to try harder. And that could just be my own imposter syndrome where I'm like, I need to know what I'm talking about before I voice myself. But I do think doing our homework, we'd have to do that a little bit more than men. I do.
When was the first time that you experienced imposter syndrome?
Oh my gosh, my whole life.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
Is it okay for it to be ongoing?
I think so. As long as you can snap yourself back out of it and realize that you're worthy of the spot that you're in. I always say, I don't know how I got to be in this spot. And then I stop myself and I realize, no, you worked really hard to get to where you're at right now. I think imposter syndrome, it's okay to feel, but couple that with grace and self-recognition to say, maybe I don't feel like I should be here, but look at the accomplishments that I made. And yeah, I did work my way to get to where I'm at. So imposter syndrome is something every single day. When you ask me to be on here, I'm like, why would she ever ask me? And then I'm like, you know what? No, Sarah, you are making a difference in the community, and what you have to say is important, and people care about that. So give yourself grace when you're feeling that imposter syndrome. We all feel it. Give yourself grace, and then sit down for 5 minutes and reflect on the accomplishments that you've made, and then give yourself permission to feel qualified for the position or the place that you're in your life.
Give yourself permission.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, wow. Okay. So women don't tend to do that.
No. Nope.
It's because we're thinking of everybody else.
Exactly. Because we have multiple hats to wear. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Tell us about a few of the hats you wear.
Oh my goodness. How much time do we have? Well, with the Chamber of Commerce, I do the workforce development that we spoke about. So meeting with employers, meeting with job seekers, and then working with our youth and our local high schools and our local universities. That sounds easy, but it's a lot of hats to wear. With the chamber, I also help run our business and education partnership, which takes businesses and education institutions and puts them together to hopefully help make impactful changes to the way we're raising our students.
But what
And
about at home?
At home, I'm a mom. I'm a wife. We have a 5-year-old daughter. Well, she'll be 6 in July, and she just graduated from kindergarten today. So I'm dealing with a whole wealth of emotions with that. And then I just had a baby in February, and he is about 3 months old. And so coming back from having a 5-year-old who's kind of self-independent and was kind of not taking care of herself, but like,
Oh yeah,
she wanted a snack, she could go get
go
it.
to snack. Yeah.
So now
She'll tell ya.
I get up at 5-ish in the morning, get myself ready, and then as soon as that baby wakes up, I'm on mom mode. So getting him ready, getting breakfast ready for my daughter, and basically preparing for the second shift when we get home after work for dinner, bath time, bedtime, all that. Then I go to work. Then after work, I come home. My husband cooks, but I really enjoy cooking. So I typically handle dinner. So then I'm on mom mode all night. So I think that my favorite thing in life is to be my children's mom. And I think I was born to be their mother, to juggle the hat of being a full-time career woman and a tentative mother really takes the support of a village. And I know that's, again, a cliche to say it takes a village, but I have an amazing support system at home and at work. So, mom and career woman, those are my 2 hats that I really wear. Mom, chef, chauffeur, which I'm sure all moms can.
Lots of moms can relate to this.
Exactly.
Lots of moms can relate to this, but is there ever a point where you're like, I need to take off this hat and just step away completely?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'm very blessed to have the support system I have. So if I need some time, and I'm pretty sure, like, my husband knows, grocery shopping by myself is not me time. Okay.
Yep.
So
Yep.
what I do a lot for me is leave the kiddos inside and just go sit outside for a little bit, or bring them out with me. But mom takes time to herself. That's something I had to learn. And I think it's something, again, we have to give ourselves that grace, because mom guilt is a real live thing.
What's mom guilt?
Oh my gosh, you didn't go to your kid's field trip and because you had to work, or you decided to go and get your nails done instead of spending an extra 15 minutes with your family. That feeling of like, I could have done this differently, or I could have done this better, is constantly something, I don't know about everybody else, but constantly something I'm feeling. Today, being able to pick my daughter up from school, but my husband took her to the park, not being able to go to the park with them when I could have used a vacation day. These these thoughts are constantly going through my head, where I could have done this differently to spend more time with my kid or my husband, or clean the house, or do the dishwasher. Like, that constant nagging feeling, that's mom guilt.
Do you think it'll ever go away?
I'm actually working really hard not to make it go away, but again, to give myself that grace to know I can't be all things to all people. And at the end of the day, that's why they say to put your mask on first if your airplane is going down or something, because once you do that, you can take care of others. If we are not taking care of ourselves, how can we expect to take care of others? Part of to fill my cup, I love doing things for other people. So like cooking for my family, that to me is self-care. Being able to do those small things. I love reading. So being able to take a half hour, sit in the backyard, usually on the weekends, I'll go out there first thing in the morning, finding time for myself, having a quiet cup of coffee by myself.
That's glorious, isn't it?
Sometimes I wake up extra early just to have that, even on a weekend. Being cognizant of those things that really fill your cup as a woman and as a mom, or as a woman, those small little things that fill your cup, I think that's really, really important.
So do you think me time should be part of personal branding?
I think so. Yeah, I absolutely think so. And I also think making sure that your partner or your family understands me time isn't a selfish thing. That is not you being selfish. That is you revamping and starting over, resetting, so that you can be your best you. I think all too often we think of me time as being so selfish. It's not. Like, we have to get that out of our mind And this is a whole nother conversation, but I think society puts a lot of pressure on us as mothers as well. But I do think personal me time should be in your personal branding, should be something that's very important to you.
So I just had this thought that we, in the first half, we were talking about work-based learning.
Mhm.
Being a mom there's no way to work-based learn this. It is 100%. I'm here in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm.
And with your first child, right? My first child's daughter, I'm like, what are we doing? I remember, and here's a complete transparency. I remember thinking at some point, did I put that diaper on backwards? And there's no training for this. You can go to, and this is where the grace comes in. You can go to all those parenting classes and, how to push to, how to put in a car seat. But when it comes down to it, there's no work-based learning for being a parent.
No, there's not. In fact, depending on how you have your kiddo, C-section or natural delivery, they're like, okay, see you later. You're kind of recovering from a major incident, like a car accident. And now this little creature depends solely on you to take care of them. Bye.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Good
Enjoy.
luck.
Good luck.
Here's a pamphlet.
Exactly. If you have any questions, call.
24/7, because I'm going to be up 24/7 for the next 6 months.
Right, exactly. Example of that, like, yes, the first one was hard. We got through it, right? Having the second one, I knew it was going to be hard. I did not realize how substantially harder it actually is to have two. I'm older. I'm chasing around a 5-year-old who demands quite a bit of energy, and I want to give that to her. She's my little bestie. Like, I got to give that to her. But then also taking care of a son that needs myself or my husband for everything. Having two was hard. I thought it was going to be hard, substantially harder. And I'm not trying to like discourage anyone from having that second kiddo. It's
a game
worth
changer.
it, but it is a game changer, and
Yeah.
one that I don't think that you can ever fully prepare yourself for.
The one thing that I keep thinking about running the course of being a mom, right? And I even have to tell my daughter this sometimes. This is my first time having a third grader. This is my first time being a softball mom. We have first just as much as they do, right? My son lost his first tooth. Well, this is my first time dealing with this child losing their first tooth.
Yeah.
Moms get firsts also.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to that giving yourself grace. Like, you've never raised a child before. Keep that in mind. If things you feel like you're in like the trenches, you are learning this also. This is your first time. And I love that you have that open communication with your kiddo, that you're like, hey, bud, this is my first time too. Like, I don't know how to deal with this either.
You don't know how to deal with it. I don't know how to deal with it. Let's Google this.
Oh my gosh. And let's not even talk about the way like we were raised to not show emotions. And now we're trying to break that generational curse and like showing our kids that it's okay to show emotions, but I don't know how to process those myself. So like, just like, let's not even get into that. But you're right. Like, it is a first time for moms. And that is the biggest takeaway I want to just say with today is grace. Across all facets, home life, work life, whatever it is. Please stop being so hard on yourself and give yourself grace to have emotions, to feel, to be late, to not wear a face full of makeup, to show up in sweatpants. Give yourself that grace, because that's ultimately going to help with your sanity.
Is there ever a line between grace and an excuse? Like giving yourself, like, this is an excuse.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like being late thing, if you're going to use your kid as an excuse every time, and maybe it is, but try hard, or get up earlier, get them ready earlier. There's certain things that we can do. Okay, so you're late one time, right? Maybe the next time you start getting ready 20 minutes earlier. I'm a firm believer in like not making excuses, but if there's like something you can't get over, right? Like there's being late is my biggest example. Work harder next time to not let that happen again. But we all know we have blowouts. We have kiddos crying.
Meltdowns.
All of a sudden, my shoes are on the wrong feet and my socks feel weird. Like, okay, this is a time where we can sit down and fix it and be a little bit late. But let's not take grace and push that into making excuses, because we want to be strong, independent women that don't focus on our home life or our strifes or our barriers to be an excuse. I don't think that I don't think you should utilize that as an excuse, honestly. But yes, I think there's a fine line between grace and excuses.
You touched very, very slightly on, the generational trauma, right?
Yeah.
We all got it.
Oh, yeah.
We, as much as we're like, hey, I'm good, I can navigate through my day, I'm fine. There is some touch in your day about it.
Mm-hmm.
And expressing those emotions is a toughie.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough conversation to have.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that is a goal for you to teach your kids? Do you have I heard this fairly recently, we have a bucket list as a human individual of ourselves, but do you have a mom bucket list?
Yeah, especially with my daughter. My son, I'm still navigating how to have a son.
You
honestly.
just met him 3 months ago.
Exactly, which is kind of strange because I feel like I've known him forever. So that's a conversation in itself, right? But especially with my daughter, I want to make my bucket list is to make her a strong, self-assured woman that has no problem standing up for herself and expressing emotions. So we have a thing in our house where no emotion is too big or small. If you're feeling a certain type of way, instead of telling my daughter, stop crying, you have nothing to cry about, I sit down with her on the ground, grab her, just sit down and say, I know you're feeling a big emotion. When you're ready to talk about it, let's talk about it. Right now, I think you just need a hug. So let's just sit and you can cry and it's all right. I had a great childhood. Just my parents were never taught to process their emotions just because their parents were never. So I'm realizing that and helping my daughter process her emotions. That's a big one. I want her to be obviously the smartest person ever, but I also want her to be emotionally intelligent to where she feels a certain feeling, anger, sadness, excitement, nervousness, and knows how to navigate through that. And if she doesn't know how to navigate through that at any point in her life, she knows she can come to me and I can help her with that. And I can help her navigate through that. But again, I'm still learning how to do that. So it's
learning at the same time.
Exactly.
At the same time.
Sometimes I'm my own teacher where I'm telling her it's okay to feel sad about that. That probably hurt, right? You're not bleeding but that probably hurt a little bit. But explaining to myself that it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. You can hurt a little bit. You can cry. It's all right. And like I said, I'm a crier. But it's not for things about that happened to me. It's like watching my daughter graduate kindergarten. Waterworks.
Oh.
Me moving on to something cool and exciting. Oh, well. No. Forcing myself to celebrate that and feel those feelings. So that's part of my bucket list. I want her to be the smartest person. I want her to be just big, right? But I also want her to be emotionally intelligent and be able to be a kind soul for others that are maybe don't have that same support at home.
And that is definitely, I'm just trying to think of a world where all of the little girls in 20 years from now, when they're hitting 25, 30, okay, maybe 35, more on our gen, and they're all emotionally intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
Think of how successful society will be.
And powerful.
Yes. Empowering, my favorite word. So here in the last minute or so, can you share a piece of advice that maybe you've learned that you could pass along to a woman of the Great Lakes Bay region?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I said it before. Be yourself. Okay. And I know a lot of times we have a hard time figuring out who we are. I would encourage you to invest some time to figure out who you are and what is your why. Why do you want to be successful? Why do you want to work for this company? Why do you want to be a mother? Think about your why and really embrace that personal brand. If you stick with that and stick with your morals, you are going to be successful in your own right. So one thing I would say is be yourself, be proud of who you are, give yourself grace, and just move forward.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on today. Ladies and gentlemen, listening and tuning in, that is Sarah Parker. And that's what she said.